What do you know about the death of this lad?
I don't know anything about the death of the lad, honest. I really don't.
Yo, this is the Scarcity Studios YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. And our sponsors are Alpha Claims and Hire Birmingham, the leading and best accident management company. Get a replacement car anywhere in 1 hour. I really appreciate you joining me today, and this is a follow-up to a story that I did about a week ago. Firstly, I would like to thank the family of Lee McKnight for sending me some good pictures of him to be able to share with the subscribers, and for making sure that I get the facts correct. 6 people have been jailed for the murder of Lee McKnight, who was lured to a house in Carlisle, Charles Street, before he was tortured and dumped in a river in July 2020. 2 of the people convicted are a mother and daughter, and I was the first publication to reveal their identity following them being sentenced, but today they have released the mugshots and also audio from the interviews with each of the defendants except for Coral. Jamie Davison, 26, from Beverley Rise, was jailed for life to serve a minimum of 30 years. Arron Graham, 26, from Blackwell Road, was jailed to serve a minimum of 26 years. Paul Roberts, 51, from Grey Street, was jailed to serve a minimum of 20 years. Jamie Lee Roberts from Grey Street was detained to serve a minimum of 16.5 years. Coral Edgar, 26, from Charles Street, was jailed to serve a minimum of 13.5 years. Carol Edgar, the mother, 47, from Charles Street, was jailed to serve a minimum of 13 years. The trial heard that Lee McKnight, who worked at Carlisle's Premier Inn, owed a large debt to a fellow dealer called Jamie Davison, who himself was in debt to other dealers. Jamie had hatched a plan to coax the victim to a safe house and recruited the muscle of Arron Graham and Jamie Lee Roberts, who were then aged 17, to respond to events as they developed. Coral Edgar had lured Mr. McKnight to Charles Street, while her mother Carol, who was a fellow drug addict, provided the vehicle later used to transport him to the river. Mr. McKnight sustained multiple injuries during the prolonged and sustained attack that also involved him being whipped with a diamante-headed riding crop. Paul Roberts was then called by his son Jamie Lee, and he came to the house and brought fresh clothing to get changed. He also tossed a phone into a drain and burnt other items of clothing for his son. Nobody at the house called an ambulance. Instead, the injured Mr. McKnight was put into the Nissan Navara, and he was driven through Carlisle and across farmland to the River Cowdew. A pathologist determined that he would have still been alive by the time he was dumped in the water, and his broken body was partially wrapped in a curtain and was found by a farmer at 5 o'clock in the morning the next day. The Nissan was later found hidden deep in a local wood. The court heard a victim impact statements from Mr. McKnight's mother, Wendy, on behalf of the family. It said, "Whatever Lee may have done, nobody deserves to die in such a vile, violent and tragic way. It goes through our minds every day, the awful knowledge of knowing what happened to him." Another woman that was arrested during the case was another relative of the Edgar family. This was the sister of Carol, and her name is Janice. She's 41 years old, and she was originally arrested as part of the investigation, but no charges were brought against her. However, they did sentence her for 7 drug crimes that she admitted. 2 of them were supplying Class A drugs, and 5 for making offers to supply drugs. They found drugs internally concealed in her body and said that she was definitely working in the trade. So this is 3 members of the same family that have all found themselves convicted of serious crimes. So it definitely goes to show, of course, you can't pick who your mums and dads and aunties are, but at the same time, and making sure that you don't get involved in the mistakes of your family and making your own choices in life, no matter how hard that may be. You may go through a time when you're alone and you're not as close to the family as you should be. But never feel that you have to get involved in something just because a relative has asked you to do that. That isn't something that somebody who cares about you, that would never try to get you involved in crime or murder or something that would jeopardize your future on this earth. These people now will have to pay the consequences for their actions. Cumbria Police have released the audios of the interviews as well, where mainly it is no comment answers given. Coral Edgar's interview is not being released. It's the only one that hasn't. That would maybe suggest that she cooperated the most with the police.
And at 104, we've got Carol, we've got Coral, we've got Jamie, and we've got Lee. and then we come back to you, and you ring Jamie. Why are you trying to get hold of Jamie now?
No comment.
You ring him again. 1 minute, 3 seconds. We know what a minute is, it's a long time. There's a lot you can discuss in a minute. What have you said?
No comment.
What have you said to him? Have you told him, forget it, I'm not coming round?
No comment.
Get lost, sort it out yourself.
No comment.
At this point, do you know what's happened?
No comment.
Your phone goes dead at 2:18. Shortly after this Snapchat. Completely dead. And doesn't come active again until 7:49 AM. What's the reason for this? This is the time frame that we've been focusing on asking you about. The time that Lee McKnight is murdered, his body's transferred and dumped in the river called you, and that Nissan Navara is driven out of town and dumped. And your phone is dead. And then it springs back to action at 7:49. But we can tell from looking at that phone data over the previous 2 days we've just discussed, it's normally quite active in the early hours. Calls, texts, answered, some not. So why on this morning is your phone dead? The morning that Lee McKnight is murdered? Have you deliberately knocked it off? Have you deliberately left it behind while you went to participate in his murder? Is there anything now, Arron, that you want to tell me? Dumped at the riverbank. We spoke yesterday, didn't we, about a pair of trainers that are located right next to the seat where you're arrested. Nike trainers in your PNC registered foot size 8. The damp, they're covered in mud, they've got bits of grass on, and Lee McKnight's body is located by the riverside. In the river, it's muddy, it's wet. You've got injuries to your legs consistent with the barbed wire. You were down there by that river disposing of his body, weren't you?
No comment.
So I really appreciate you joining me today. Rest in peace to Lee McKnight, and my condolences to his family. Please don't forget to check out on our website as well for any written versions available in English, and I'll be back again very shortly with some more news. Peace.